Folks, welcome to the Dave and Tammy Year-End Extravaganza.
I can't believe it's been a year for the Year-End Extravaganza.
I know. And it's so funny. I've noticed on social media, our rabid fans, if I can call them that, have said, man, dude, we cannot wait until the Year-End Extravaganza because that beautiful wife of your Tammy finally comes on the show and gives us something else to look at beside your mug. So I thought that was very nice.
That's very sweet.
Folks, there's some fun things we're going to do this particular year. And we're going to do the show in two parts just because we got some scheduling going on. We're going to do top 10 books of 2024. We're going to do top 10 television shows and top 10 movies. But something else we're going to add this year is top 10 podcasts.
You always say top 10, and I never have 10.
Fair enough. Well played. Yes, I'm going to say top 10. They don't have to be top 10. And by the way, here's the other thing about using the phrase top 10 is somebody somewhere is going to say, dude, I got it. I didn't make you top 10. Does that mean you didn't like my book? Well, no, we did, roughly 4 a month. So 48 books. I got to boil it down to the top 10 that kind of stick in this old gray matter of mine.
Not everybody gets a prize. I mean, that's just the way life is.
All right. So we're going to say this. At my core, I must be a rule follower because I've got 10 listed for all of them. But to Tammy's point, she did not read 10 books this year. I think it's pretty safe to assume. So she can't have 10 books, but I can because I did.
And guess what? They're not all thrillers.
Oh,
I am breaking more rules.
I like it when you break rules.
I'm kind of a rule follower myself, but not in this case.
Let me drop this a little bit, change the lighting. Oh, yeah, that's so much better. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Since we're running the show, we can do whatever we want. I'm going to start off with, first of all, let's just start off this holiday show talking about things like what has our holiday been like so far and what are we looking forward to most for this holiday season? All right. Well, we do have two little munchkins that are going to hit the road and come see Momo and Popo in about a week. And I cannot wait to see those happy, smiling, squealing faces.
Top of the list. Those two snuggled up in here with Jake and Malia. It's going to be a really, really fun holiday. And we haven't had them on our turf for a holiday. So I see lots of pool time, they love swimming in the hot tub, lots of hot tub time, lots of beach time, probably a field trip to VG Donuts. We will definitely make Christmas cutout cookies. This was a big request. I think we're going to have some popcorn taste off. So we'll make a bunch of popcorn, different kinds, and we'll all talk about why we like what. Just hang out. Movie nights here at the house. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah. Movie nights in our jammies.
Yeah. I mean, movie nights will be G-rated and be animated. But some of those animated storylines are pretty sweet and precious.
Yeah. I think of, it's kind of funny to say this, but is it Moana?
Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Not only has it done killer at the box office, but I remember the first time I saw version 1, it was with Jack and Allison, and we're sitting on the couch, and it's voiced by The Rock, and I don't remember the gal's name. And I was surprised at how much I liked that movie. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was partly because I was pulled into the Hawaiian setting, ocean and beach, but there's a great little moral to the story. And I think, and I know there's listeners sitting there going, duh, dude, duh. but I don't watch a lot of children's animation. So when I did, I was like, I like this. Let's watch this again. They're like, Popo, we've already seen it 3 times. I'm like, okay.
Some of those shows are pretty sweet.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's kind of the limit on that. But let's start off with since we're gonna do top 10 shows and TV shows and movies in a little bit. But let's start off with books and podcasts. And if you, go ahead and reach in the fishbowl and choose which one of those you'd like to start with first, books or podcasts. And it doesn't have to be top 10, honey.
Thank goodness. Let's start with books.
Okay. How many do you have? Let's do that. And that way I know because I want to intersperse.
I have 5.
Okay. Well, then let's do this. I'm going to start. I'm going to count down to number 1. Does that work for you?
You can count down to number 1, and I'll just add my books as color. How's that?
You're so amenable. All right. There were 10. I did, like I said before, we probably recorded about 48 this year, but these are the 10 that have stuck out in my mind. And I won't break down the beats of the books and the artists and so forth, because if you've listened to the show, you know them pretty well. But I'm just going to cut to it. Number 10 coming in with Shades of Mercy with my good buddy Bruce Borges. That was a book I just thoroughly enjoyed, and it is his follow-up to the first book, and it was just so much good. Number 9, I'm just going to do 2 in a row right here. Number 9 was a late entry to the party. In fact, it was only last week, but it was my good buddy Adam Hamdy, and the book was Deadbeat. Wow.
I can interject a comment on this book.
Interject away, darling.
I remember you sharing some feedback initially about, I'm not sure where Adam's going with this. And you stayed with it. And then all of a sudden you hit the precipice of like, you were just full in. And every time I turned around, you had the book, you had your face in that book. I would just say if anyone picks up the book and they have that same feeling, like, I'm not sure where Adam is going with this, give it some time, because clearly it's going to kick in and you won't want to put it down from what you shared.
Do you remember when we were down at the gym and you were doing your workout, and I'm on the treadmill and I'm reading, and you come over and sneak up behind me and take a photograph of me doing it?
Yeah. Highly, not anything I would recommend to most people trotting along on the treadmill
and trying to read
at the same time. But
yeah,
you're multi-talented, so you could handle it.
Yeah, that's because I'm working out these days, baby, trying to get in shape for a new you in 25. All right, just go ahead. So give me one of yours.
May Gardner. Duh. I think every year I have a Meg Gardner book on our top 10. Shadowheart, high octane thriller is what I've seen out there, and I fully agree with that description. It's another book in her unsub series. I can pick up a book in her series and I just know I'm going to be good to go. Like, good character development, great storyline. Meg makes me think. She's a very thoughtful writer, and I always walk away feeling fulfilled by the time spent.
She is one of those artists, and there's a couple in both of our lists that it's so refreshing and comforting to know that you can always, every single time, count on particular authors to always deliver. Mm-hmm. Now, you're going to say, well, yeah, except for the case, that's not always the case. Sometimes the authors will go off on tangents and try something new, and it doesn't quite work. And that doesn't mean it's wrong. They're just experimenting, as we all are. But, and maybe part of that is you're so used to getting dialed into their particular protagonist that you're like, well, anything outside of your protagonist, I'm thinking of Danny Ryan and Don Winslow. then I'm not sure, if that's my interest. However, like with Meg, always, always a hit. I almost said always a heat, as in heat too. But
It is hard, though. I understand that when you're used to a particular storyline or character and you rely on that author for a story about that individual or that subject matter, and then they switch, it's having to jump outside of your comfort zone and take a chance on, just something fresh and something different. So I understand it when people have a hard time with that,
yeah,
because even when I'm on the go, if I want to pick up a book to read it, I want to feel like I know exactly where this is going to go. This is going to be great quality, and it's going to take me on a adventure.
yeah, and I've always felt that way with. I'm thinking of another one that just popped into my head, James Patterson. Now, there's a guy that I have followed for decades. I mean,
Yeah.
decades, when I was traveling back and forth across the country, and I would pick up a book en route in both directions. And you always knew that it was going to be short chapters, fast reads, lots of action, plenty of dialogue, and you were always pleasantly pleased at the end of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to roll in here with both 8 and 7. Number 8 is a gal that I got to sit down with face to face this past year in our studios in LA. And I was so thrilled because she is probably one of the sweetest, most charming people ever. It's T.J. Newman, and her book was Worst Case Scenario, or in some people saying Worst Case Scenario. Either way, just one of those books that I think she's really become kind of those, it's tragic devastation, fill in the blank. She's really become that kind of an author. And that book, as we were talking about, is just non-stop. I don't think it takes a beat anywhere inside the book.
Yeah. Yeah. TJ is, she's so likable.
Yeah.
She's someone it's easy to cheer for her. And then when you pick up her books, it is that same thing. You're going to pick up a book. If I'm going to go from point A to point B, she's going to keep me entertained all along the way. And it does do a little bit of a throwback to, what was it? The Poseidon Adventure from the
Yes.
70s, and the Towering Inferno and Earthquake. Yeah, there is a little bit of that.
Yeah. Just nuts.
Yeah.
Number 7 for me on this year's top 10 was a book by a guy that I was definitely late to the party, but he can now count. And I told him this on the show. You can count me now at perhaps the mayor of your fan club, C.J. Box, 3-inch Teeth, about a grizzly attack. And it was grisly in a lot of different ways. But boy, that guy, he can flat out write. Talking about blending intrigue and mystery, and then, of course, the element of suspense and thrills, but all tucked inside a story with characters that feel very real, very, very next door, like these guys inside and out. And I just thoroughly enjoyed CJ's book, 3-inch Teeth.
I learned a lot from your podcast with him, too.
Well, thank you.
And I mean, it was all around bear behavior and that subject matter. But yeah, I like him. He was really, really entertaining.
And we have a little inside scoop on bears. We have some friends up in Lake Tahoe, and the bears in Lake Tahoe are really pretty much part of the neighborhood. They come up on your porch and often will just welcome themselves right into your house, perhaps in the middle of the night, and go through your refrigerator. They aren't grizzlies. They're black and browns. Yeah.
Black and brown. Mm-hmm.
But so we have a kind of a inside mutual appreciation for bears.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you? What's your number 4 would be?
Don Winslow's City in Ruins, the Danny Ryan trilogy.
Bam.
It was a fun 3-year ride with Danny. I'm excited to see that come to life it is coming to life on the silver screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Mr. Elvis himself.
Oh, yeah. Austin Butler.
Austin Butler.
Yeah.
As Danny Ryan.
Yeah.
Again, anybody who knows anything about Tammy and I, we're ginormous Don Winslow fans. I mean, we count him as he and Gene as friends. And, he's been here to the house. He's hung out in the studio, and the guy never, ever, ever disappoints. Never once.
They're just good people.
Yeah.
Really good people.
All right, let's move down to number 6. Now, this gal, I got a chance to meet at Boucher Con this past year in San Diego. And when I met her, and she seems so unassuming and so quaint and polite and sweet, and yet she writes hell of a thriller. And you heard me on the show before. You've heard me mention the fact that she reminds me of like a Jean Le Carré, but she wrote a book called The Peacock and the Sparrow, which is just... There is a reason that she's won, I think, pretty much every thriller and thriller adjacent award for Peacock and the Sparrow. It is just a fantastic read. And I can't remember, honey, did you or did you not read it yet?
It's on my TBR list.
Tammy is an enormous spy thriller fan. I mean, Tinker Tailor, and I can think of Slow Horses and this, that, and the other. I'm just a huge fan. Well, you're going to gobble this one up like Thanksgiving dinner.
I'm excited. And she's really nice, too.
The nicest. And so unassuming. Like, yeah, it's a little book I wrote. Yeah, former CIA. How you doing? You got a little inside scoop for us. My number 5 goes to a gal that you've just mentioned a moment ago. She also always delivers. Meg Gardner, Shadowheart, golf clap.
Love it.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Meg Gardner.
No.
What's your next one, darling?
I'm moving into audiobooks in the nonfiction world because that's kind of where I live.
Okay.
I want to either listen to a podcast or listen to a book when I'm out walking sunny or going for a run. And one book that I really enjoyed this year was Burn Book by Kara Swisher.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not familiar with Kara Swisher, she's a longtime tech journalist. She's highly rated. I was introduced to her listening to the Succession podcast, and she just kind of says it like it is. This book is a little like memoir-ish, a little behind the scenes, backdoor insight into moguls in the tech industry. So what I find fascinating about that is just learning a little more about this group that really built up our tech industry. And, the impetus for a lot of these people to get involved in tech was because they wanted to change the world. They wanted to make it better. And the irony is, so many of us, everyone here, could probably sit and talk about the reality of changing the world for the better, and how it's really landed in our world. The impacts of social media, the impact of I'm never, far from my phone. I'm always connected. So I like things that make me think, and conversations and information that make me think. And this book, Burn Book by Kara Swisher, is definitely one of those. Highly recommend.
And the book is called Burn Book or Burn?
Burn Book.
Burn Book. Okay. All right. I'm glad you brought up podcasts because I, of course, have 10, but I'm going to get to them in a second. I know. I'm going to go ahead and get back to my books. Let's see. We're at number...
Well, I'm still in books. That's an audiobook.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Number 4 is a book that I can say turned me on its head. I mean, it was a perspective I had not read before, which is very hard to find. And it's from a guy I had not heard from before. Oddly enough, Eric Rickstad did a book called Lilith, and black and white cover. One of the most singularly powerful books I read in 24. about a woman who takes matters into her own hands after a shooting at their school, at her children's school. Wow. You heard me talking about that one.
And I remember the podcast, and there are some real life accounts that he layered into the story. Is that correct? Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Powerful. Brian Freeman ended up having my number one book of the summer. It did slip a couple of notches in my overall. However, it doesn't mean it's not still tops in my book, BF. And that is Break Every Rule, a book that broke every rule and entertained every single step of the way.
I love it. I have two more
Go for it.
nonfiction audiobooks to talk about. The next book that I really enjoyed is called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. I think I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. This is a conversation about the spread of social media and its impact on kids. When the smartphone was introduced to young kids, teenagers, and the impact of that smartphone on their mental health and on their childhood. It's fascinating. It's fascinating to me. And again, this is one of those conversations I don't think any of us can argue about what happens to us when we watch everybody's perfect life on Instagram, only to look at our life and wonder, how come everybody else is having these incredible vacations and shopping trips and hikes along the European countryside, and we're all stuck here in our own sad sack of a life? I found it fascinating. I think it's a worthy conversation. It sounds like it has made some impact where it should make some impact, and I hope that it continues to affect change and how everyone allows smartphones to be involved in their kids' lives and even maybe our lives.
I just thought of something. We're going to include the list of these books and their authors and the podcasts, as we're going to mention in a second, and the audiobooks, so that in case you're driving and listening to this podcast, and you're like, oh, you don't have paper and pen on the handy.
Yeah.
You can refer to this later, because that is a book, an audiobook that I'd love to get my hands on. And
I'll share it with you.
Why, thank you, darling.
On our family sharing account with Apple.
All right, I'm going to wrap up my top 10 books right here, both 2 and 1. Number 2 goes to Don Winslow, City in Ruins. We talked about him. Danny Ryan, of course, a book that thrills at every single turn. I think I've read every single one of Don's books. Kind of enough said. He's in retirement now, so of course that makes you go, well, I can't get any more Don Winslow, as far as we know. And then number 1 goes to a book that it made my top 10 for the summer. It's a book that continues to haunt my memory, and haunt in a good way, because it is just one of those books that I have not been able to put out of my mind. He checks off all the boxes. He is smart. He's charming. He's a great writer. The book is concise. It's broad enough. It involves wide travel, espionage, spy. There's a love interest. I mean, it has every single solitary thing you want. And it still clocks in at just under 330 pages in the book, which is kind of a sweet spot for me, that 320, 330. And that is Christopher Reich's Matterhorn. Such an impressive story that a kernel of his idea, which I hope we're all doing as writers, a kernel of his idea ignited this thing in me. I'm working on my own thriller, and something about that ignited and gave me the push, the impetus, the enthusiasm to borrow the thinking, the strategy, and work it into a book. I can go on forever, but I'm not. Chris, I want you back. We got to meet in the LA studio. I want you back for the next book, which I hope comes out in 25. That book is Matterhorn. So bravo.
I have that on my TBR list too. So Peacock and the Sparrow, Matterhorn, and then Jack Carr's book, Beirut. I do have one more nonfiction audiobook, but I think I'm sounding like a major buzzkill.
Okay. Why is that, babe?
Well, I'm talking about the demise of our youth, and now I come back with The Storm Before the Calm with George Friedman. He's a geopolitical forecaster, and he talks about the demise of civilizations over the course of time and what's in store for the United States. And he makes predictions like throughout the 2020s and into the 2030s. I find this stuff fascinating. However, I feel like a major downer on the Thriller Zone end of the year show. So maybe that'll be all from Tammy on audiobooks.
Oh, that's so funny. What a great title, too, by the way. Well, honey, this is the thing about you. And you've said this before, the reason that you don't read a lot of fiction. And by the way, folks, Tammy is one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. And I'm not just saying that. I'd say it if she wasn't sitting here right now. But she only has so much time in the day in between the jobs that she handles and then taking care of our new daughter, Sunny, four-legged Sunny. There's very little time left. So she's either probably going to be listening to it because she spends a lot of time outdoors as we do. And she wants to be learning. So there you go.
There we go. I like the audiobooks.
By the way, one quick thing I meant to mention. I have an honorable mention, as I always do, to
great.
debut author John Lindstrom, Hollywood Hustle, also met in the LA studios. Face to face makes all the difference in the world. And I might want to interject this, that in the new year 25, we're going to be revealing some new things in the show. We've talked about this barely before, but we're going to talk about this later in the show. And some of that involves more face-to-face because it's just, in my opinion, the immediacy of being able to just dial up anybody and talk to them is great. But there is nothing, and ask every one of them, there's nothing like sitting down face-to-face. And John really delivered with Hollywood Hustle.
And what an awesome interview. He was so much fun during that interview, and not fun as in comical, but fun just as participatory, lots of great context around storyline, character development. How do you go from being a working actor and apply that into writing a book? It was a really great podcast.
Yeah. And John, I want to say this to you. I hope you're listening. You were among the favorites, and you come to the show with such a warmth and a charm and an insight, and you're so engaging. And I know some of that's part of your acting background, but we had the chance to have lunch afterwards with Jonathan and Mark, and he's just an average guy, although he's a fantastic actor, I might add, of which you know him for decades on General Hospital and other things, right?
Yes. My mom was a big As the World Turns follower, soap opera on CBS. And he showed up as a character there and played that character for a long time. I never got into, I don't know about the General Hospital character, but yeah, from a soap opera background, the guy is completely legit.
Yeah. So John,
someone's at the door.
Oh, go ahead,
please.
Could be a special delivery. See, this is the thing about. Matter of fact, let me go find out. Oh, yay! Oh, nice. She'll be back in just a second. And here she comes.
It's like, welcome to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Who's going to come in the door and join the podcast? It's our local UPS delivery person. Oh, where are we going now?
Well, I've got my top 10 podcasts. I can just blow through those if you'd like.
Let's go.
And this number 10 goes to Course of Action with our good buddy Jeff Clark. As you know, is a thriller writer in the making. He also writes about business, writing for business. But Jeff's just a good dude, and he's always supported the show, and I take a peek whenever I get a chance. Number 9 goes to Spies, Lies, and Private Eyes, another writer in our familiar family. Goes to Terrence McCauley. Great podcast. Congrats to both you guys for doing what you do. Number 8 goes to one that Tammy turned me on to, and Tammy knew the author, the host, before I did because she lived nearby the studios. Major Garrett from CBS does one called The Takeout, political chatter over lunch and such, and just a riveting podcast. If you'd like to add anything there before I move on.
Keep going.
Okay. Number 7 goes to a show that I've been a fan of forever, Tim Ferriss and the Tim Ferriss Show. Here's the guy who turned me on to the 4-Hour Work Week, the 4-Hour Body. He's into biohacking and just, boy, probably one of the most inquisitive hosts you could ever find. I don't want to talk about it too much because I'm going to drive you away from my show, but Tim Ferriss Show comes in at number 7. 6 goes to a trifecta of humor and talent, a show that Tammy and I listen to constantly whenever we can. If you want a good laugh, generally with movie stars and comedians, etc., it's going to be Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett with a show called Smartless. It came on the scene right around COVID and blew up to magnificent proportions, and they're now making more money than God.
They're on Sirius Radio now.
Sirius XM, are they?
Yeah.
I know they started on Wondery. Okay. Mm-hmm. Number 5 goes to true crime. And I almost didn't want to say that because, again, you're going to drive over there and maybe not here, but true crime.
There's room for everybody, David.
Thank you. Room for everyone. And which is why we're also entering that space in 25 in a little tiny way. We'll share that more later. Number 4 goes to a guy that you either love or hate. He's hard to be. Yeah, he's an okay guy. You're pretty much one of two ways with this guy. And Tammy and I tend to listen to him when we're on long road trips because his shows are long. The Joe Rogan Experience. It is a man cave bromance for everyone. He talks to a lot of comedians, generally movie stars, musicians, and it's always entertaining.
He's pretty knowledgeable about a lot of subjects like that. He's really impressed me by how knowledgeable he is about a lot of things.
You're right. Matter of fact, to the point of, there's a little piece of me that goes, when I think about getting into his space, which is more, non-selective to thriller fiction,
right?
I go, I couldn't possibly keep up with him because he's just so well read about so many different things and so knowledgeable.
Yeah.
My last 3, that goes 3, 2, 1. Tammy and I both share because we are into healthy living, healthy lifestyles, eating right, living long, etc. Number 3 goes to Dr. Bernardo Huberman with the Huberman Lab. If you want to learn about science and the body and all that goes with it, give that a listen because holy bananas, that guy he brings on some of the, and I'm thinking of Peter Attia, who he's had on a number of times. Though you get those 2 guys on there, Dr. Huberman and Peter Attia, who wrote a book. What's the book you wrote? Lifespan, Outlive is a book. And boy, just if you want to learn about science and body and health and well-being, check it out. Number 2 goes to Tetragrammaton, which is Rick Rubin, the music guy, producer. Thank you. I've got the book. I'll listen to the podcast. As one guy said the other day, oh, you mean the guy who looks like a homeless man? I'm like, well, yeah, I was going to go with guru, but you can say homeless man. He's smarter than anybody I know. I mean, you got to check it out. Tetragrammaton. And then number 1 goes to, we really should get a piece of the stock on this guy. We mention his name probably in conversation at least once a day. We listen to his podcast. We've read his books. We have subscribed to Function Health. Dr. Mark Hyman and the Dr. Mark Hyman Show. Take it away, because you're the one who introduced me to him, and it's just one of my favorites.
Dr. Hyman, gosh, I think he was with the Cleveland Clinic in the 2000s. He was at Canyon Ranch as a doctor there. I think the first book I bought from him was on like the anti-inflammation diet, which might have come out in the late 2000s. I've always followed him, just watched what he was doing, off to the side. And then when I started to go through just some health shifts, when we were all in the COVID shutdown, you and I started working with his ultra wellness clinic via teledoc and went deep down the rabbit hole into genetic background, you name it, we uncovered it. And I am a huge fan, hook, line, and sinker, Dr. Hyman. I can't say enough about him. If you're looking just to get information on health and wellness and longevity, he is the guy, in my opinion. I really do like Huberman, and I respect Peter Attia. I would say that the difference with some of these guys that are into the whole wellness and longevity world is that they're generally using their maleness and hacks on them as a male to talk about the impact of these hacks on lifestyle. I'm not a dude, so that
Clearly
doesn't really help me. And that would be the one thing that I don't particularly enjoy. And, if you're a guy, I would totally say Peter Attia, Dr. Peter Attia, he is fantastic. Huberman, I really enjoy his stuff in general. With Hyman, his approach is he's approaching this from a functional health perspective for you as the person, gender specific, your deal. And he's not about the hacks. He certainly talks about these various things that are coming up in the public eye and in social conversation. So that would be the difference for me. I'm all about Mark Hyman. He would be my number one wellness podcast go-to.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, and it's not so funny. Just yesterday, with our chiropractor kinesiologist, and she introduced me to the guy who originally started functional health. Mm-hmm. And there's a book right there in front of you. I'm trying to think of his name. It is James
Jeffrey Bland.
Jeffrey Bland. He's kind of the father of that functional health and wellness. But and I was just thinking about this. We're going to have all this information in the show notes, because you want to take a deep dive on your health. You want to find out how to improve your life today. This is the way to do it. Trust me, we both have gone through, between my cancer and your perimenopause, we have faced some real uphill battles. And if you do not take life by the throat and give it a good shake to wake yourself up and do the right thing to avoid things like inflammation, we'll just start there, then you not only are missing the boat, but you're shortening your life, without preaching too much about it. But
well, thank you for carrying the buzzkill baton, because I was thinking I was holding that sucker for the entire podcast. So thank you.
We got to share that baton, baby. And yeah. Speaking of which, we have to take a short break here in a second. And we're going to come back with the second half of the show, which is going to involve our best top 10, top 8, top 7-ish, whatever Tammy wants to do, TV shows and films of 2024.
Would you like some of my podcast, or is this kind of all about you?
Well, Well, like I was saying, we're going to take a short break in a couple of minutes. So that is still a few minutes, and I'm going to leave these last few minutes all to you, Miss Podcaster.
What a way to pull that. Yeah. Nicely done, darling. Nicely done. I agree with you on Hyman. I agree with you on Major Garrett. I like Rick Rubin. It's like Joe Rogan or Jack Carr. I really like his podcast, depending upon the guest. It's all guest dependent. That's going to be, where my particular interests lie. And then I'm going to be all in and I'm going to listen. But I might not tune in every day because I just might not be interested in the guest.
Yeah.
News and politics. I like the Daily, the New York Times. I'm a big fan of Katie Couric. I watch her Instagram lives. I listen to her Next Question. She just always on the front lines, trying to deliver information, trying to bring to light topics that we're all dealing with right now, whether it was during the election or it was during some of these criminal trials that pertain to our incumbent president. She's always trying to bring information forward. I love her. I really like David Axelrod with his Axe Files. We listen and watch Bill Maher. We've even gone to see him in person. Love him. Pivot with Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway. That's another good one if you're interested. Again, and just current day subject matter, technology. I like them and I like their style. If I'm going for something joyful and light, I'm always going to listen to the Thriller Zone for sure. Hello. I do like Smartless. I might tap into a Conan O'Brien and see who he has. And there for a while last year, at the beginning of this year, I was getting a pretty big kick out of the New Heights podcast with the Kelsey brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I need cotton candy in my life right now. So let me tune into a couple football player bros and hear what they have to talk about.
Well, it's so funny to follow some guys who come out of nowhere. And sure, if you're dating Taylor Swift and you're on one of the most successful winningest football teams in the world, you got a pretty good chance you're going to get some attention. The fact that his brother is equally, if not more, hilarious than him certainly helps. But, the podcasting world exploded on the scene decades ago, seems to show no signs of slowing down, and has now generated both 2 and 3 digit $1 million deals. And it's hard to keep it going sometimes, but when you have the right chemistry, the right combo, as many of yours that you just mentioned, many of which I really enjoyed and I did not put in my list, you're on your way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure that industry is going to go through some shifts and changes in the near future too. How can it not?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So apologies for not jumping in there, darling.
No apology necessary.
All right. So now we're going to take that short break. And when we come back, after our sponsor gets to say his hoo-ha, we're going to cover the TV shows and films that we found were fabulously entertaining, wouldn't you say?
I'm so excited to go down this track. Yeah.
So folks, stay with us. We'll be back with more Dave and Tammy Year-End Extravaganza right here on the Thriller Zone. Stay with us. And welcome back to the Dave and Tammy Year-End Extravaganza here in 2024.
So excited to talk movies and TV series.
Yes, and before at the end of the show, before we get to the end of the show, I got a couple of things that we're going to be adding to season 8 in the new year. Hey, is it in my imagination, or do you have on a different, more festive outfit than you had in the beginning of the show?
I do. Sorry, I'm, just handling a little business.
Should I put this on hold for just a moment?
No,
Okay.
we're good.
Should I come in there and get another espresso? Because that would make 4. What are
No,
you doing?
let's not do that.
Who is it? Who's on the phone? Who's texting
The Big Daddy.
Which Big Daddy? You're looking at the Big Daddy. There isn't
Well,
any.
the big whale.
Oh, the whale. What's he want? What's the whale want? Doesn't he know that you're in the middle of one of the most breathtakingly intriguing podcasts in the world today? By the way, speaking of which, while she's still checking her text, in season 8 coming up in January, couple of things you might want to take a note right now. A couple things. We're going to add some new features, which I'm going to talk to before we end the show. Things that I think you're going to be excited about. So stay tuned for that. Also, we are dropping the show on a new day starting in January.
Oh, this is exciting. Tell me more.
Why, do you ask? I'm
Yes,
so
why?
glad you did. Yes. Here's why. I have done some extensive research. We have hired the best minds in the business. Come to find out that Mondays are not the best drop date for thriller fiction. We hired the best people to do this, and we found out that Thursdays are actually the best day of the week to drop a podcast.
I get that. Even if I have big email announcements or updates, like you're not going to do that on a Friday. Duh. And no one wants to get something on a Monday. Like they're dealing with an avalanche of emails on Monday, and you could easily get lost in the shuffle. So I think that's a great idea. It'll be fun to watch how that changes participation, views, subscribers, you name it.
Well, thank you for that, and I appreciate it. Yeah, we found out that Thursdays are the best day. So starting, here's what you're doing. You're going to pull out your calendar right now, people. So we have a very special guest to launch season 8. I can't say the name just yet. Tammy's very excited. I'm probably 10 times more excited because this is someone I've wanted to have on the show. Like if you had said to me, who's your dream guest? There's 3. One of them has already been on it. That leaves 2.
Is one of them alive?
One of them is no longer with us. And then the third is who's going to be here. So if you've been listening to the shows in the past, you might know who that is. That's all I'm going to say. But
He is very much alive, though.
He is so much alive.
We're not channeling him in.
He's very much alive and well, living today.
Love to hear it.
Prolific author. Prolific. And someone I grew up going, wow. All right. So we're on holiday starting. This show will drop on Monday, the 23rd, right here in time for Christmas, as you would imagine, Monday, the 23rd. Well, we are dropping on the 23rd is what I'm trying to say to you, which is Christmas Eve Day Eve. Christmas Eve Day.
And then your Big Daddy Whale podcast will kick off season 8 on
Thursday the 16th.
I'm marking my calendar.
Thank you. Here's why. The first 2 weeks, we're still on holiday. Because we're working through Christmas, right up until Christmas Day.
You might be, but I'm.
Yeah, baby isn't, but daddy is. And then we have several grandkids, Jack and Allison, to come to see Momo and Popo.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Oh my God, we're going to have so much fun. As you heard at the beginning of the show. So then we're going to be out of town that first week. And then the second week, we're really kind of coming back and getting our world started, which pushes us to the third week. So bear with me, folks. I mean, you're thinking to yourself, geez, Dave, I mean, third week of January, I got thrillers on to be listening to. Understood. But this is going to be worth the wait. Right, Tammy?
100%.
Okay. So starting in January of 2025, it will be in that particular month, it's going to be the 3rd, but come February, it'll be the first Thursday of the month. It's Thursdays, folks. Thursdays. Think of it as Thriller Thursday.
Ooh, there you go.
That's how you'll remember it. Thriller Thursday.
You're kind of excited with yourself, aren't you?
I'm a little excited with myself. I got to admit, I am. So mark your calendars, January 16th for a Thriller Thursday.
How about some TV series?
Well, and now we're on to the TV series, because I think we've pretty much kicked that right in the short hairs. All right. We're going to start with the top 10 shows, and we actually both have 10 this time. Young Tammy has actually done the homework, and let me just say this out of the gate, honey, before you get started, then it's all you all the time. You're going to hear some similarities here, because guess what? She sits right there on that couch right there, and I sit in that black lounger, or vice versa. We switch it up sometimes. It's not just Daddy's chair. And there you
Black
go.
lounger.
Black lounger. Handsome, stately, classic. And we watch all the same programs together because we pretty much never leave one another's side. And we like it that way.
Very true.
Yeah. So we're going to see some similarities. I do have a bonus that I'm going to start with, just because I always do that, which is, so it's like the 11th one that I want, 11th deserves to be there, but we're only doing 10. So why don't you start us off, young Tammy?
Well, first, just to layer in my own process, I have thrillers, joyful and light, really wanted to like, and looking forward to in 2025.
Oh my goodness, you went the extra mile. Mine is just, this is what happened. Here you go.
These are not in any particular order. The first one is Disclaimer with Cate Blanchett, Kevin Kline, Sacha Baron Cohen on Apple TV. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, because I have it listed as to the level of importance for me. So that falls in as my number 5, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So you're willy-nillying it. So you're just going to give 10. It doesn't matter where it is.
Bingo.
Okay.
What I liked about Disclaimer is we talk about this a lot. Content that stays with you and makes you think. And you have a conversation about it like days later or even weeks later. I was thinking about it this morning as I was walking Sunny. I think it was great.
And here's why I liked it. I'll jump in on that if you don't mind. Dark and twisted dose of must-see TV that pushed some boundaries while pulling no stops, as it portrayed a story that wasn't always what it seemed to be. It is one of those things that I think the word is best used is haunts. It haunted me for some time.
Yeah. Yep.
While also making me want to see the next one fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was haunting. Do you want to go to your number 10?
I think I will. Number
Good.
10 is one that I was slow coming to the show, but thanks to my lovely wife, Tammy, who loved it and allowed me to catch on, I have grown to love it. Number 10 for me was Slow Horses, starring Gary Oldman as overly disheveled spy chief who reigns over a group of MI5 rejects. Probably one of his more viscerally captivating roles that I've seen him play. His dishevelment is taken to a new level. I mean, you can practically smell him through the television.
That's very true. Yeah. I really like Slow Horses. I think they've had 3 full seasons now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Diplomat with Keri Russell and Rufus Sewell. He's a British actor.
Rufus Sewell. Mm-hmm.
Sewell. Thank you. Loved it.
Me personally, flat out the best writing on television. My honest opinion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that your number 1?
That is my number 1.
Wow.
So I'm just going to jump in there. Since you're playing willy-nilly, I'll go willy-nilly with you. So that is my number one. That is, to me, the best writing on television. It's sharp writing. It's superb acting. It's exceptional cinematography, which are all things that I look for in television. And it blends global politics and personal drama with clever twists. And again, exceptional writing. I cannot say enough about. I mean, and Keri Russell, I haven't always been the biggest Keri Russell fan. Sorry. But she just nails this and chews up the scenery. And I'm in there hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, I like her as a female lead. I started watching her in The Americans.
Yes.
I saw just a few seasons of that, and I really liked her. Really liked her. My next one is Presumed Innocent with Jake Gyllenhaal and Peter Skarsgård on Apple TV.
Babe, I completely forgot about that. That was...
You did?
Yeah, I'm an idiot. Wow. Can I insert a little secret? Should I insert the secret that I told you about just before I came on the show? It involves...
Is he confirmed?
He is confirmed. So Scott Turow, who wrote Presumed Innocent, wrote Presumed Guilty, his follow-up, and we have just now booked him for February.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That'll be a real interesting conversation.
And when I say February, it could be January, but currently it's February. The book comes out on the 14th.
Okay.
Cannot wait to read this.
Mm-hmm.
My number 9, I took just a moment to get this. And I think when I went into this, I'm like, okay, we'll see. And it felt kind of forced at first, but then I lived with it for a while. And it's one part Western, one part sci-fi, but wholly entertaining with two of my favorite actors, Josh Brolin and Lily Taylor, also Imogene Poots. But the show is Outer Range, which was stunning.
Yeah, that subject matter feels like a easy go-to for you. We're going to talk about another series here in a minute that follows that line about time and worlds and blending, our timelines. So I can see why you would really like that.
And one of the reasons I like it, besides the fact, I think Josh Brolin is quite an actor. And he pulls me, the very first one that popped into my head that I really, really enjoyed him in was No Country for Old Men. But
yeah,
it's the fact that what the subject matter that we're going to call sci-fi is steeped in reality, in my opinion. I think, like we were talking, I was talking to Adam Hanby last week when we were talking about his book Deadbeat, but the one before that was The Other Side of Night, which had to do with, I don't want to say time travel, but it bent some of the thinking about time and reality and so forth. I'll just be very vague about it that way.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I'm like, there's a whole lot more truth in that than I think your average bear might think. And so time travel, the fact that Einstein says time doesn't exist, bending time, Christopher Nolan, I think of, etc. I'm fascinated by that stuff. Anyway,
yeah, you are.
Talk too much about it.
You don't talk too much about it.
Okay. Your next one?
Ripley. So Andrew Scott, he was the cute pastor in Fleabag. And that was clearly a completely different role for him. And then to see him light up in Ripley, which is a really great backstory, and then woven into the current movie story of what we all know of this character. I think it was really well done. Netflix.
I was going to say, if you saw Matt Damon in The Talented Mr. Ripley, you'll appreciate this story that is similar in structure, but much more Hitchcockian in its style, especially given the fact that it's shot in high contrast black and white. If
Yeah.
you know anything about me, you know I love films and I love the cinematography of films because it says so much about the message and the story. It's simply superb. And I have to admit, Tammy, and I think we talked about this, it took me a while to stop seeing Jude Law in my mind as Dickie Greenleaf with this other character that I can't even remember his name. But, and of course, and Matt Damon, of course, is referenced in my mind. But this, because I think it was black and white and so noirish with its Hitchcockian feel, made me appreciate it as its own story, apart from, the way we grew up watching it. But man, just stunning.
Yeah. I agree with your feedback.
And you'll notice we're both at number 8, so we're going to jump on to your number 7.
Griselda with Sofia Vergara. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Griselda was about I think she was Colombian drug dealer crime boss,
Oh, yeah.
and she completely lost herself
Yeah.
in the role. I'd never watched her in the TV show she was on, and I'm not sure I was ever exposed to anything she'd been in before. But this was a series on Netflix, and you and I both thought it was really well done.
Yeah. I did not include that, but yeah, super. My number 7 stars a guy that I've enjoyed for years. It was not only heartbreaking in many places, but equally heartwarming in so many others. A story of Count Alexander Rostov is stripped of his title and material wealth and placed under house arrest for life in Grand Moscow Hotel. A Gentleman in Moscow. And I think it could be McGregor's best acting to date and is certainly one of Amor Toll's most engaging stories. Just stunning and heartbreaking.
I had that as joyful and light. And I think I had it as joyful and light because it was refreshing that it was really deep. It was emotional, but there wasn't I didn't feel tension. A lot of times when we watch thrillers, whether it's a movie or a TV series, I can feel it's a little overwhelming tension that makes me feel uneasy.
Yeah.
And the ride through Gentlemen of Moscow was really good. It had highs and lows and it tugged at my heart, but it never made me feel anxious.
So good. My number 6, now, and I think it's 4th season, True Detective Night Country.
Yeah.
Starring Jodie Foster in Alaska, working a creepy investigation that is off the beaten path, to say the least. Boy, we gobbled that one up, didn't we?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love that series, True Detective. I'm curious to see if they'll be back. And I thought that team that did this last season did a great job.
Yeah, the whole True Detective team seems to up themselves every single time. And that's number 4. So, it makes me wonder, will she come back for 5? Or will there be a new one? Because aren't Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson?
Uh-huh. I can see the gentleman's face, but I can't.
Is in Moonlight.
Yeah.
The third was
Vince Vaughn and Colin Farrell.
yeah, okay. And then
Taylor
Jodie
Kirsch,
Foster.
I think. Taylor Kirsch. Mm-hmm.
What's your number 5?
Agency with Michael Fassbender, Richard Gere, Jeffrey Wright, Jodie Turner-Smith on Showtime.
That and Diplomat. 2 of my favorite shows on television. Just stunning performances, stunning writing.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's interesting with some of these shows that just release, they'll give you 2 or 3 episodes to get you sucked in, and then they'll release one weekly. There's that fine line of let's just wait until they all load, and then we can sit down and watch them like a couple of movies. This one would be hard to do that just because it's so good, and we keep just we look forward to, I think it's released on Fridays, to watch it. So, Agency. Yeah.
My next one is everything that you hope for in a Carl Hiaasen novel. Humor, both dark and light, quirky plot points, and laugh out loud humor. The bonus being Vincent Vaughn, who literally eats the screen with nearly flawless delivery of wicked smart lines. It's Bad Monkey.
I love that too. I have this one down as a joyful and light
Yeah.
series. Apple TV, love it. Can't say enough good about it.
What's your next one?
Black Doves with Keira Knightley on Netflix.
Is my number 3. Savvy action thriller starring Keira Knightley, as you said, Ben Whishaw. Knightley is Helen, married to British Minister of Defense, and has been spying on him for a mercenary company called the Black Doves. So it's not only the spy story and suspense that pulls you in, but the take on love, loyalty, and global politics. It really was right up there neck and neck with the Diplomat.
And they were true to the characters to the end. Sometimes when we watch shows, they'll wrap things up in a way that we'll look at one another and talk about, was that really true to the character? Or was that more about leaving the audience with a happy bow or something else? They didn't do that in Black Doves. They really tied the series up with each person's situation resolving itself in the true nature of the character. I thought they did a great job.
I think that you put it so well. That really is one of my favorite things about that show. And we made this comment. I think because there is a couple that you expect they were together, they fell apart. You think they're going to come back together. And I thought, I like the fact that such and such didn't happen because it would have been too perfectly a wound a bow. And yet they ended his particular story true to his life. And just so well put.
Yeah.
My last one is, I love the way that you're doing light and joyful and so forth. The one that is really, as much as it reeks of pure sitcom structure and pacing, that all kind of fades into the background as it gives us humor, humanity, and heart, plus some fine lessons for all of us to learn, starring Harrison Ford and Jason Segel and Shrinking.
Yeah. That's on my joyful and light.
There's one that we always found ourselves, if we were coming off of a dark, of course, you can see by now that Tammy and I both like probably predominantly on the darker side, superb writing, dark cinematography, etc. But boy, you want a little shot of lightness and something that you go, oh, let's put on some Shrinking. And it's so funny that it usually clocks in around 33 to 38 minutes, which is pretty much standard for sitcom on streaming services. And you find yourself every single time, oh, just another 10 minutes would have been so great. And while Jason Segel is kind of the main star, so to speak, it's Harrison Ford that surprises you with his humor, but it's that Jessica Williams that is just a showstopper. I laugh out loud at the lines that she's given.
Yeah, she's great. There are several characters in there that they all have their moment in each episode.
And you always walk away with a little bit of a lesson, which tell me how many shows you get to see that these days.
Yeah. I had so I would have 3 more to talk about.
Okay.
And a couple of ones that I really wanted to like. So we really enjoyed Old Man with Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow, Amy Brennan. And I think that was on Hulu. I don't think from what you've shared, it'll be back for a 3rd season.
No, my Hollywood Inside reporter told me that they are not renewing for number 3.
Great couple of seasons. And maybe that's exactly what should be the next course, is that it just resolves itself and it lets the viewer determine how the rest of it is going to play out. Like sometimes that's nice too. Like we don't need to always understand the ending. We can create our own ending. for what we think's going to happen.
It's kind of like life too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
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 I loved Jeff Bridges in that.
Yeah.
Super.
Dark Matter with Joel Edgerton and Jennifer Connelly on Apple TV. That is the series that I was talking about when you were discussing Outer Range. That also had to do with that slippery slope of time.
Yeah.
Um,
Parallel universes, dude.
Parallel universe. Bad Sisters with Sharon Horgan and Fiona Shaw and Owen McDonnell, who was Nico on Killing Eve on Apple TV.
Mm-hmm.
We really liked the first season, came back for the second season. We both watched the first episode and thought, However, the other day while you were out doing what you were doing, I turned it on and got through a couple more episodes, and I'll probably watch it to the end. I'm not sure it's something you'll jump into.
Jump the shark for me.
Yeah. What I really wanted to like Perfect Couple with Nicole Kidman and Liev Schreiber on Netflix.
That's
I couldn't do it.
such a great way to put it. You and I both were like, we sat down, literally, folks, like this. We sat down. Oh my goodness. Okay, two great actors. Yeah, and we're maybe halfway through it, and we're looking at each other, going, "What? What?
Yeah, we tried.
Goof."
The Man in Full with Jeff Daniels and Diane Lane on Netflix. Another one.
Oh,
I think we saw it through all the way to up until the last episode. You watched the last episode. I didn't. I just thought my time is worth more than than sitting here. And it wasn't for 7 episodes, but then all of a sudden I was like, man, you crossed my line. I'm done.
Yeah, and I hate to say it because I really enjoyed the Thomas Wolfe novel upon which it was based, but and Jeff Bridges, Jeff
Daniels,
I'm his one of his top 100 biggest fans.
Yeah.
But geez, that thing was, oh.
Yeah. We are enjoying Lioness.
Love Lioness.
Yeah, we're really enjoying that right now.
I'm telling you, what did I say to you last night? It's so nice to see women toting the guns and kicking the ass.
It's what we do, David. Looking forward to 2025. Apple is coming out with a series called The Studio with Seth Rogen, Catherine Hahn, Bryan Cranston, Paul Dano.
Yes.
I mean, all great actors, and I think it's going to be funny. It's about a movie studio. It's kind of defunct. And I think Seth Rogen's character is the one that's kind of in charge of bringing it back.
Yeah.
I do like the morning show that's going to come back on Apple TV. I'm curious to see what they're going to do. The first season was so meaty and I really liked it. And then I think it's the last couple of seasons.
I'm really surprised it's coming back. It felt like it had done everything it needed to do. Now what it feels like to me, this is just my honest opinion, is like, well, look at all the great stars we have in it. And it was it did this and then it did this and then it did this. I'm like, yeah, you should stop there because I have a feeling it's going to do this, which is up, down, up, down. And I feel like it's going to go, well, it's making so much money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah.
And then last one is Big Little Lies. I like the first season. I'm curious to see what they're going to do next.
Yeah. All right. I know that we're crunched on time for you because you have a conference call to jump onto. So let's move on to our top 10 films of 2024. And I happen to know because I was looking at your notes over your shoulder.
Cheater.
Well, you and I both share the same number 1, and I'm listing mine as 10-1, but I can go freestyle or otherwise. Now, if however you want to do it, if you'd like to start, please, you can start. You can start at the top and work down, or it doesn't really matter, does it?
No.
Go for it.
I probably have another buzzkill caveat here about movies. And that is, I wasn't really impressed with the options this year.
No.
So,
I had to work to get my 10, honey.
yeah, and I'm not even sure I have 10. I think I had to break some up into joyful and light to get there. But also the other thing I saw was um, a lot of movies were deemed thriller, but they really felt more like horror.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I like a good spook. I love a good spook. Some of what's out there, I just don't have a taste for it. So, um, I did it this way. I did, thrillers, and then I did some joyful and light, what I'm looking forward to in 2025.
All right, I just did the 10 that I picked out, and I filled I filled the list with a couple that I'm like, but I needed 10 because I'm a rule follower.
Right. Okay,
Uh,
so you want me to go?
yeah, start with your
I
number
was
10.
We made a point to watch Monkey Man. It's a Dev Patel and Jordan Peele movie. It was totally action-packed. It was a great story, and I was super impressed by Dev Patel. Monkey
I
Man.
Yeah, I call it John Wick meets Fight Club.
There you go.
Yeah, and Dove, that is his directorial debut. And folks, God, I thought the guy could act. Well, he can direct too. And they asked because they knew it was going to be so successful, would he direct a sequel? And he goes, no, I don't want to do another one. This was the story I wanted to do, and I'm done.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I
but
like that.
he crushed it. Monkey Man was my number 7.
Okay.
My number 10 was because of her performance. And I've been watching her since I was in college for sure. Was it high school, I'm guessing? Demi Moore in The Substance. Now, it's a movie that not everyone's going to like. It is bizarre as hell, but I was so impressed with her performance, vulnerability, and the bizarreness of the story that I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this. I give her my number 10.
I agree with you on Demi Moore's performance. I had been looking forward to watching this movie. And I will say, when it started out, you and I looked at one another and commented about, oh, this is going to be an artsy film. This is cool.
Yeah.
How interesting. The way that they did shots and stuff like that.
Very Kubrick-esque.
Yeah. I'm still struggling to understand the moral. What is the takeaway? And maybe that's the point. I'm supposed to come up with my own takeaway, my own moral to the story. I'm going to leave it there. As far as I'm just going to let that go, because I was really impressed with Demi Moore's performance. She was just amazing.
She was. I have great respect for her.
Yep.
What's your number 9?
Wolves.
Yeah.
I really looked forward to this movie too. Brad Pitt and George Clooney. I wanted to love this movie, but I didn't. It just kind of fell flat for me. Kind of a good storyline. And I like their banter in it. I just was left feeling a little flat.
It's funny. We both shared number 9. However, I liked it much more than you did. I liked it because I really like George Clooney. I've always been a Brad Pitt fan.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they were kind of poking fun at the genre, cleanup guys.
Yeah.
I like the way it was shot. It was artfully done. I think Smokehouse, which is George Clooney's shop, did it. Probably with part of Brad's as well, Plan B. But I really enjoyed it. Did it satisfy to the nth degree? No, but I wasn't looking at it to satisfy me. I was expecting more, and yet the ride, I was in for the ride. I took the popcorn and went for the ride. Yeah.
Awesome.
My number 8 is Horizon by Kevin Costner. And I think what I like the most about it is, first of all, I think he is on his own roll. Taylor Sheridan is the talk of the town. Every time he turns around, he's got another TV series and he's doing it well. But Kevin Costner, what I like about Kevin Costner in this role is you can tell that he inhabits it not only from the standpoint of his acting, but he's laying a lot of his own cash on the line to get his dream fulfilled. And as a closet filmmaker, I I can relate to that. The story is also timely and reminds me of some of the Taylor Sheridan stuff. It just has a slightly different, take.
I agree. Horizon is a movie that I really enjoyed. I believe I watched it twice because I wanted to catch everything. I'm enjoying the history part of it. I like seeing how he's bringing history to life. It's why I enjoyed 1883 with Sheridan.
Yeah.
Again, just the historical perspective. And I'm really looking forward to Horizon 2 when that comes out. I hope it's going to come out in 2025.
I think so.
Yeah.
We've already jumped over my Monkey Man, which was 7, so I'll go right to my number 6, which was a documentary that I mentioned on the show recently with Adam Handy. Is probably one of the most powerful documentaries I've seen in a while because it's so heartfelt and so real. You take one of the biggest comedians of our time and a little known person who is one of the head writers on SNL, put them together, which is Will Ferrell and
Steele.
What's that?
Harper Steele.
Harper Steele, thank you. Which is her new name. She transitioned to transgender, but the movie is Will and Harper. And I was in out of the gate. I was in before I even saw the trailer because it was a premise that I thought this is interesting. So it's a road trip between two old buddies who are now still two old buddies, just in a slightly different way, and they go from New York to Santa Monica, and it's just so rich.
The backstory on the cross-country trip is before Harper had transitioned. He at the time enjoyed driving cross-country. It was a cathartic thing. He grew up in Iowa City, Iowa, and as a guy, he could roll into any dive bar in a small town, oil town, cowboy town, and he could hold his own. He would be fine. And when he transitioned to Harper Steele, that was her concern is now I still like that road trip environment. It's still how I process and what I enjoy experiencing and seeing the United States, but how will I be accepted? And that is what Will came along for. And what they experience is heartwarming. It's sad. They're both really vulnerable, and your heart aches for this person. So I enjoyed that it wasn't about Will Ferrell, the celebrity, we saw Will Ferrell, the person, trying to support his friend.
I love your backstory, so thank you for sharing that. That's so perfect. And Will, if you're looking for a movie about Will Ferrell, the comedian, this is not it. He had one moment that was Will Ferrell, and it's classic Will. However, the thing that happened as a result of what he was doing in this particular scene about halfway through the movie, which is about halfway through the country, his response the next day is heartbreaking. And it's just a powerful story. I don't care how you fall on either side of the aisle of sexual preference, etc. I'll just be generic there. I don't care. It's a great story, well told, and it's worth a watch.
Yeah.
What's your next one?
Under the joyful and light category, My Old Ass with Audrey Plaza. I mean, is that an awesome title or what?
It's so good. Go ahead. Give me why you liked it.
I like Audrey Plaza. I think I first became aware of her I think it was the show Parks and Rec. She played Chris Pratt's girlfriend.
Yeah.
She always kind of has this bitey attitude and kind of behavior, snarky. And then we saw her again in White Lotus. So when this popped up, this is about her 18-year-old self. She goes off on a mushroom trip and she calls in her 39-year-old self, and the 39-year-old self is giving her some life advice before she rolls off to college. Really touching, really sweet, fabulous ending. And if you want to get away from the tension of thrillers or the shoot 'em up, bang, bang of some of the stuff we're talking about, that was a refreshing switch.
Yeah, I thoroughly love it. Was funny as heck and thoroughly original.
Yeah.
And I watched it because of her. I didn't care what it was about. When I saw that she was in it, I'm like, I'm watching it because I'll watch anything she's in. The only thing that is a little bit of a challenge, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's a moment as we near the end of the film that happens, and it does make you scratch your head a little bit. I don't want to overanalyze it because then that takes away some of its fun. I'll just leave it to say that it will leave you scratching your head and wondering. However, you're left with the positivity of the story and the message, and just good fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was good.
That was my number 2.
Okay.
What's your next one?
Oh, I can go again. Fly Me to the Moon with Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum. Again, under the Joyful and Light. Do you remember this one?
Oh, sure. It's not on my list because it was fun and fresh and popcorny, but more cotton candy, so even less substance for me. It was fun, but I didn't make my list.
Yeah, I really liked it. NASA launch director. It's all set up. It's set against the Apollo 11 mission. And basically, they wanted to have a backdrop of the landing in studio in case something happened and they weren't able to capture the real landing on the moon. And Scarlett Johansson is the marketing media mogul with a little bit of a sordid past, and Channing Tatum is an astronaut.
Yeah.
Really great, little bit of love tension. And like you said, it was light and fluffy. And that's why I liked it.
Light and fluffy works. Speaking of light and fluffy, combining two things I really like: spy thrillers and comedy. Argyle.
Oh,
That's
that
my
was
number
cute.
5. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was really cute. I liked it too.
And then again, I'm going to jump ahead because I know we're crushing on time. Is a feel-good movie. So it's 2015, Costa Rica. The American runner Michael Light and his adventure racing team get stuck on the first day after he makes the poor decision to kayak against the tide. But a furry friend enters the picture, and that's what grabs you by the heart and doesn't let go. It's called Arthur the King.
Great. Great story. Joyful and light.
If you don't like this story, you don't have a heart beating in your chest. You're doomed to hell. The end. Mic drop.
Not joyful and light.
Merry Christmas. Yeah. What's your next one?
Well, it'd be down to our number 1.
Well,
What do you have left?
I have 3 because we've already covered 2, which is my old ass. So number 3 is The Fall Guy, and there's 3 reasons why I loved The Fall Guy. Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, and how it was both funny and familiar, taking a lean from the original. But it was still light and fun, and I enjoyed it. It was just, a feel-good movie. Yeah.
I agree. Next.
And then my old ass was number 2, and I'm going to wrap up with the number 1 that we both share.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to say it's because of the main actress, who was superb, and it was so incredibly well done. But I'm going to let my lovely wife give the title and the reason and the story.
Oh, I'll carry this one. Thank you. It was Civil War with Kirsten Dunst and her husband, Jesse Plemons. Dystopian, future America, team of military embedded journalists. They are headed to Washington, D.C., to the White House, where some rebels are going to attack the White House. And it's about their journey from, I think it's New York, all the way to D.C. And the characters they meet at the time, it felt really familiar. Like, is this a little insightful as far as like how our country feels? It kept me engaged. It provoked a lot of conversation after the movie between the two of us. I thought it was great.
It was great. I only have one single thing left, and is it would be in my wanted to love but couldn't quite love it enough list. And I only created this because you have some of those. So it did not make my top 10. I wanted it to make my top 10. I mean, but it left me nonplussed. And this is a lot coming from a guy who man crushes on Ryan Reynolds almost as much as he
Oh,
does over the other Ryan, Gosling,
yeah.
which is Deadpool. I wanted to love it so much, Deadpool and Wolverine. But for some reason, it just didn't land with me like the first Deadpools, which was just laugh out loud, friggin' brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And it was quite long.
It was too long. It was too much. It was just too much. And they had spent what felt like months and months and months and months advertising it. I don't take
Yeah.
anything away from that. And
Yeah.
I love me some Deadpool. So it's not that. It's just that it was so overhyped and so over the top and would not stop that I think while maybe even before they were rolling credits, I'm like, okay, enough already, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
love Ryan Reynolds. I mean, I wish he was my brother, but yeah, that just didn't work out. All right.
Yeah.
What else do you
Hey,
have? Is that it?
let's talk about what is coming in 2025 that we're stoked about.
Bring it.
Jason Bourne,
Yes.
the final,
The final one with Matt
final,
Damon.
final,
Final.
Mission Impossible,
Can't get enough of Mission Impossible.
um, The Accountant 2,
Interesting.
Den of Thieves 2.
Oh, my love of Pete. You're kidding me. Yes.
I'm not kidding. How awesome is that? I know you're excited.
So excited.
F1 with Brad Pitt.
Oh, that's going to be stunning.
Mm-hmm. And then there are 4. A couple of them are out now. So one is Real Pain. We're talking about seeing this. It's Jesse Eisenberg, Kieran Culkin, and it's about a couple of mismatched cousins that I think they go off to Poland to meet their grandmother's family or something like that. I really like Kieran Culkin. I know you do too. And Jesse Eisenberg is funny. So this should be fun. Conclave with Ralph Fiennes. Ray Fiennes, thank you. Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, Isabella Rossellini. This is about Cardinal. I have it here. Sorry, excuse me. Cardinal Thomas Lawrence organizes a papal conclave to elect the next pope and finds himself investigating secrets and scandals about each candidate. Now, because of all of the actors that are in it, and I think the storyline sounds pretty interesting. I'm excited to see that. September 5th. This is with Peter Skarsgård. This is about the 1972 Munich Olympics. And instead of seeing this from the victims' family's perspective or the terrorist perspective, we're now going to see it by the sports broadcasters, plural, perspective. Remember Jim McKay from The Wide World of Sports?
100%.
Yeah. And all of his other stuff. I just remember Wide World of Sports. But he has a significant presence during that time. And I can't remember the amount of hours that he sat and was broadcasting. So that to me sounds really exciting. And then lastly, Alto King. So Barry Levinson. I don't know the last time we've seen anything from Barry Levinson.
Jeez, the guy who brought us Diner, right?
And Sleepers and a lot of great material. So he's going to come back with a crime family saga. And I think this is about 2 real life crime families in New York. I'm not sure when that's going to release in 2025, but September 5th comes out soon. Conclave is out and Real Pain is out.
Cool.
So maybe we'll see that.
Looking forward to that. Well, folks, as we start to wrap up the year, thank you so much for joining us here in 2024. And Tammy, thank you so much for being there right next to me.
Thank you for having me.
Always so fun. So many people reach out and say, dude, why don't you have Tammy around more often? And I'm like,
I am. I'm just in the other room.
Right there, behind that door.
Right there.
Well, I want to share just a couple of things. We do have a whale coming in on January, as we mentioned at the top of the show, or near the middle of the show, that is coming on January 16th. That's coming. We're also going to be adding some true crime stories to the show. True crime, as we all know, has been just a monstrous success over the last couple of years, and we want to dip our toe in that pool. Also, we're going to do some audio excerpts from your favorite thriller writers as we sprinkle it into the show. Also, another thing I'm working on, and I'm going to be reaching out to some of my listeners for their help. This is still in development, but I'm calling it basically something like Thriller Podcast Theater, where we're going to be taking a scene from a favorite book, acting out one of the chapters, both with professionals and non, just for fun. And then another thing we're doing is some audiobooks. We're going to be doing audio excerpts. And we never got around to it in 24, but we are in 25, and Nonfiction Friday. So yeah, the show will drop on Thursdays, and on occasion we'll have a Nonfiction Friday so that I can scratch the itch of my fandom of nonfiction books. And without having to start a whole new show, which some of you guys know that I was talking about that, I'm going to bring it here under the umbrella of the Thriller Zone. So I hope you will stick around for that.
Well, all of that sounds very exciting.
Thank you.
I just have one remaining question.
Yes.
Are we going to see Chris Haughty on the show in 2025?
Chris Haughty may have gotten too big for us. I don't know.
Well, I don't have a book to read. I am all caught up on Chris Haughty material, so I am hoping we'll have a Chris Haughty sighting on the Thriller Zone.
I think there's a rumor of somewhere in the later summer to early fall that there's something in development.
Something happening? Yeah. Something may be happening in his world?
And we do know that some of the other big authors out there have lots of books to drop. And I'd love to share some of that, like the Ryan Stecks and the Simon Gervais and the Jack Carrs and Brad Thors. I mean, I could go on, but just know there's some a monstrous stack coming your way.
And what about some of your up-and-coming guys, or guys that are not quite the Brad Thor, but they're not young and new? Will we see any of them?
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
There won't be a whole lot of debut authors this coming year for a number of different reasons. We can drill down on another time, but there will be some folks that are, not there at the head of the race, the top of the league. But they're coming. But we have so many things jam-packed into season 8 coming in January.
Crazy.
So, folks, until we speak again, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Am I missing any of those?
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, that's right.
Number 7, dude.
Number 7, dude. Lucky 7. Oh, such a good year. Well, honey, thank you again for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I'm David Temple, your host. I'll see you next time for another edition of The Thriller Zone.